policy. If it's in the scouting program, you should report it to the scout executive immediately. Again, if he or she's not available, report it yourself to the proper authorities.
I'm telling you, I would have a hard time not going right after the guy.
I think we all feel that way. But it's important you don't get angry in front of the boy because he might interpret that as you being mad at him. It's already taking a lot of courage and trust for him to come forward.
Okay, so if we see signs of abuse and we witness it firsthand, or of course if the boy tells us about it, we report it to the scout executive immediately.
If it happens within the scouting program, yes. Or report it yourself to the authorities if the scout executive isn't around.
Right. And if it happens outside the program, we need to tell Child Protective Services or the police.
Right.
I'm confused on one point.
What's that?
Earlier we talked about physical abuse like bruising or broken bones. Are those really signs of sexual abuse?
They could be, but typically those are more about physical abuse. In fact, you're making a good point. We've mostly been talking about sexual abuse, but there's also physical and emotional abuse or neglect. Often kids suffer from more than one kind of abuse.
What about those? Are they part of these youth protection guidelines?
Absolutely. Physical abuse and neglect are things you should report to the scout executives or police. Neglect is a little tricky, though. If it's obvious the kid is skinnier than a coat hanger and not properly dressed for the season and eats everything in sight when he's around you and tells you he never gets fed at home, well, you might want to take that up with the scout executive and see what can be done. But look, the effects of poverty and neglect can be similar. Bottom line, if you see the basic needs like food, clothing, shelter not being met, you should report it.
What about emotional abuse?
In those cases, it's up to us to continue to make scouting a positive experience for the boys. Things like no bullying or mean nicknames, treat each other with respect, follow the scout oath and the scout law. All those things will help any boys dealing with emotional abuse.
But it's not reportable.
Well, actually, it is. If a boy comes to you and makes suicidal or self-demeaning remarks, then that's a clear sign he needs help and it should be reported. Reporting isn't negative. It's just trying to facilitate help for the kid.
What do we do if we want some more information about all this?
Well, all BSA youth protection resources are listed in the youth protection section of www.scouting.org. And the BSA has some great video-based awareness training materials for youth members, too. For Cub Scouts, there's It Happened to Me, which covers the 4 basic rules for personal safety. For Boy Scouts, there's A Time to Tell, which is built around the 3 R's of youth protection: recognize, resist, and report. And for older scouts and venturers, there's Personal Safety Awareness, which has material more appropriate for teenagers. We think it's a good idea for every unit to watch these programs once a year with their parents present so they can discuss the subject with their boys.
That is such a good idea. We really need to do that.
Yeah, and while the whole subject makes my skin crawl, I feel better knowing what to do and what to look for if I see or hear it.
Well, good.